Good morning. Good morning, Sue. Can you hear me, Sue? Good morning, Betty. Great. Just checking the volume and just the sound. Great. And just to let you guys know, I have a new camera mount here, and I'm not so sure how I can tilt it up to see me and to see you guys. So let's see how this goes. I know it's a skinny frame here, but I'll make sure to keep the cards in that for you. So we've got a minute or two here as we're waiting for people. And I hope you're doing well. Okay, thanks, Sue. You know the video will be here whenever you need to go back and watch it. Okay, and I'm glad you could see my hand there. Let's see. I think I'm going to open the window here just to try to get a little extra light, and then we'll get going. All right. So what I want to share first is I did send you, well, let me first get started here. So welcome to the Christmas card making fun online class. I am so excited to share 3 really neat cards with you today. I don't know about you, but I am right in the middle of making all kinds of Christmas cards. My goal this year is to get them mailed. I didn't do so well last year. Anyway, with that being said, as members of this class in the Facebook group, now you'll continue to have this video and this Facebook group in your Facebook account. So if you look on the left-hand side of your screen when you open Facebook, there should be a listing of all the groups that you are a member of. If you can't find them across the top of the Facebook page, you'll see 9 little dots in a circle. If you hit that, then you'll be able to be taken into groups and find this group there as well. Kate, try turning your sound up. I think the sound is working just fine. but make sure or turn the audio on your picture so that you hear it. I don't turn my audio on here because you would get, you know, an echo. So, and Betty, you have to leave. That's fine. Like I said, you'll have the video here. And I did send you the Plum Crazy Stamping Project Design System document. And unfortunately, I forgot to print one out. So I'll be talking about that from memory here. And we'll just do that as an overview to class. But if you have any questions on how to use that document, it's really to help walk you through the card design process and think about the things that you have, the things that you know, and kind of work through your ideas. So we'll talk about that in a moment. And let's see, I think that's kind of the intro. I'm Tracy Reither, and you can reach me at Tracy, Traci, at plumcrazystamping.com. And or you can leave a question or a comment right here in the Facebook group. They'll come right to my mailbox and I can get back to you. All right? So let's go ahead. If you have printed out your Plum Crazy Stamping project design system document, just recognize that, like I said, this is to help you design cards. And this is what I go through when I designed the cards for today's class. And it does go through the acronym of CRAZY. And the C is trying to think of, you know, what's the content or what you're going to be celebrating or the circumstances. And so obviously I chose Christmas. And I also wanted to make sure that I tried to limit the number of products that I used, the amount of different stamping colors, trying to make this something easy for you to replicate, whether or not you have these exact stamp sets or the paper or the ink, because I really hope that you will use your stamping stash to create cards. And if you really like something, I will have the information in the beginning of the tutorial along with catalog numbers so it's easy for you to order. But in the big picture, the things that I chose are pretty easy kind of Christmas things. So maybe if you don't have the current stamp sets, you have something from Stampin' Up! Or another company that would work for you as well. So when I plan my crazy and I'm thinking about what I'm celebrating and the C of that, I do look at my supplies and all of that to see what's going on. So those are really my resources. And as I said, and then I look at, oh, do I have embossing folders that go with this? Do I like the sentiments in the stamp sets? Or do I need to go find just a set of sentiments or a sentiment from another set? What's the designer series paper that I have? And a lot of times I'll use the designer series paper to pick my color palette. In this case, this year, they're doing a lot of real red and garden green. I love it. That's worked out well. Also, I think those are real basic colors for us to have as stampers, whether it is Christmas or, you know, other times of the year. I can always find things to use those colors. So that's why I chose those today. And then when it comes to artistic techniques, so as I share these different cards, I'm going to share some alternative ways to do these too, to give you choices. So as you learn techniques, I hope that as you have gotten the Plum Crazy stamping design project, you know, or project designs, you know that you've put together a binder and you start keeping these tutorials and tips that I put in the emails so that you can refer to them. And I like to point out different ways to do things to give you options. Also, I think that helps you to use the supplies you have when you have options. So when you think about artistic, sometimes it's very simple. And sometimes I'll show you more stepped up techniques if you would like to be able to, I'm saying I usually don't do that. If you would like to, kind of make some special cards for folks. And the other artistic technique is know that tools can be used in different ways. So if you have a tool and you're not sure how to use it, I'd like you to email me and say, Tracy, how do I use this tool? And I will either incorporate that into my card making lessons that I do free on Wednesdays for all of you, or put it in another class. So let me know what you want to learn. Okay, and then we've got the Z. And, that's the zip, that's the zany. That is how can you set your cards apart from store-bought cards, cards that others are making, or what's your signature that you're going to put in your cards. I'll show you those in the cards too. So sometimes it's adding a little extra image. Sometimes it's adding bling. Sometimes it's just doing something unexpected. So we'll talk about that. And then the Y is keeping track of the lessons that you're learning. I love to, watch videos myself, take classes, and, I'm trying to do a better job of putting them in a system where I can refer back to them when I'm looking for ideas. So I encourage you to do that as well. All right, and let's just check in with everybody. And Betty, thank you for asking. And I guess, Kate, we're trying to see if you have sound and if everything's going well here. Otherwise, I am going to... I just need to see if we have somebody. Nope. Trying to come into class. All right. So let's go ahead and start with card number 1. And this is the fun fold for this class. And why I'm choosing to do this one is because this looks so nice. It looks a little complicated, but this is really a very, very easy card. So this fits in a medium size envelope, the size A2 envelope. I kind of took the easy way. If you have ever used the Memory and More cards that come from Stampin' Up, this made my designing really easy because I used everything that was already pre-printed and just did a little extra fussy cutting to create unique images that look like die cuts. And I really like at Christmas, especially sending to folks that like to display cards, these cards that sit up and can sit on a shelf, on a table. I have a lot of friends that use my cards actually in their decorating for Christmas. They save them year to year, or they put them in frames. So, that's kind of hopefully some inspiration for you as you make your cards, that people really, really do appreciate handmade Christmas cards. All right, so there's our card. We'll just kind of let it sit here a minute. Maybe I'll let you look at the front while I do this, and we can always pop it open again. All right. Oh, and let me show you just what a Memories and More card pack has in it if you've never had one. So first there are a number of 4x6 cards, kind of like designer series paper, and they have designs on the front and the back. Now these can be used to make cards, or like this is for journaling in a scrapbook. So they're also really wonderful in a scrapbook, and that's why the 4x6. If you have scrapbook pages that have pockets, these will fit, and or they'll be the same size as a 4x6 photo. And see how you could cut down a photo and then use this as a frame in your scrapbooking? You know, what a beautiful thing to put at the top of a scrapbooking page. And then you're going to see I liked this stripe, so I incorporated that into my card. Okay, so that's just some peek of the larger cards. I think I've shown you all that. Okay. Then they have 4 by 3 inch cards. Same thing. A design on one side. So like this could just be centered and be the front of your card all by itself. And then this could be a layer or an accent on a card or in a scrapbook. And then, you know, reindeer, obviously. Let's see what's on the other side here. Christmas tree. Okay. Believe in the magic. So another title that could go into a scrapbook or on your front of your card. Just some more detail to put on a card or a scrapbook. Same with this. This is the one I'm choosing to use today and cut up for what we're doing. Love that background. Another, like I said, multi-purpose set here, and then journaling blocks. And another cute little reindeer. So these really are very, very nice. And then in addition, they have sticker sheets. And there were actually 2 sheets of each set of these stickers. And I'm going to show you how I decided to use those too. But, you know, I'm sure it's obvious. You can put these anywhere in a scrapbook or on a card. So there's all kinds of work already done for me. And it really helps to make fast Christmas cards. I know sometimes people just buy these packs and make all their cards using this and they're done. So, you know, you could use your basic white cardstock, or you could just get the colors that are in here, because like Designer Series paper, this lists all the colors. So early espresso, garden green, granny apple green, pecan pie, pool party, and real red. So very easy for you to set yourself up and go ahead and make cards. Okay, let's get that out of the way. And let's go to the card that we have in front of us here. All right. And let me just, I'm going to refer to page 2 here, but this is your tutorial if you haven't printed it yet. And all of the cards are pictured here. I did put all the class supplies together so it was just easy instead of splitting it all apart. And you're going to see that I've kind of listed this, and they find themselves in this description in the order I'm doing the cards, if that helps. And then in the stamp sets, I want you to know that I separated them out between a bundle, or if you just like the stamp set or the dies. The bundle is the stamp set and the dies together for a 10% discount when you buy both. So that's why I laid them out that way for you. And then you'll find each card a little bit closer up shot, how to cut all the paper, and then the step-by-step instructions to put the card together. All right, I just want to be able to refer to measurements, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the comments. All right, and we're going to start with our card base here. Just garden green, and this is 5.5 by 8.5 and scored right here at 4 1/4. So let me get my bone folder here. We'll just score this so that we have that done. And let me see if I did the additional score in here. I did not, but I know why I didn't do it now. So what we're going to do is, this is kind of a double layered front of the card. And so I decided that the first layer, the background layer, I wanted it to be, you know, more of a solid color. So this is the 4 by 6. Let me set that over here. The 4 by 6 card that I got as part of that package. And I first need to trim that down to fit as a card front on my card. So let's just set our card front up here. And I am going to trim this at 4 inches by 5 1/4. All right. So, 5 1/4 first on this side. Let's just get this up here to 5 1/4. Now, you know, I don't want this. I want to try to make this kind of equidistant. So let's see. If I put this to 5 1/4, it's looking like I need to cut off 1 3/4. No, 3/4, period. So I'm actually going to cut this off because 3/4 is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to cut off 3/8 on each side. So let's see if this works. So 3/8 is almost to a 1/2 inch. 1/8 less, okay? So I'll make that cut. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So 3/8. Now that works fine if, like on this one, that leaves me with red kind of on each side, and that's what I was looking for. But if it were a different design, I would just kind of think about how I wanted to take that 1/4 inch off. And then the 4 inches, these are already 4 inches, so I don't have to cut that anymore, okay? Let me just kind of set the trimmer aside here a minute, because we're going to need it to score here. All right, but the first thing I'm going to do is actually create the front of my card by gluing this on. I'm just going to use my multi-purpose glue. And this is really hard to cover up the nice second side of these cards. All right, so we have this card base. Now, this could be the top of your card, and you're going to see, in order for us to get this to pop up like this does, we are going to need to do another score so that we can bend this up. And the reason I didn't do it on just the card base alone is because these cards are a heavy cardstock, and so I need to score both of them to get a good crease on the front of my card. So that's one tip. If you're doing this and you're adding either, you know, whatever layer, I would do that before you would score this. And remember, when we score, we always fold towards the valley, right? So we're going to make the valley of our scoring go on the inside of the card, because we're going to fold this to the inside. Turn this around here, because I am going to be scoring this at 2 1/8. And I got to make sure I have my cutting blade out of the way. 2 1/8. That's a half of 4 1/4. And then I'm just going to go over it a couple times to make sure I have a good score line. And get that out of the way here. You know, I'm kind of, this desktop with this new camera holder is interesting. And the fact that my view isn't what I would prefer, but anyway. All right, so now I'm going to actually, the score line, I'm going to fold towards it. And, you know, try to get it kind of what I feel like is well lined up. And then I need my bone folder here, and, you know, do a nice firm score there so that we have our pop-up, right? It'll go back down and it will pop up. All right, so that is the first card front, and you could leave it like this, okay? But I'm going to take a second card because I wanted, now think about that Z in crazy. I wanted this to be a little special. And I wanted hopping reindeer that were literally mobile in the air. So what I did with this one is decided that I was going to trim off the white ends. So we're going to be doing that with the trimmer. And then I literally fussy cut this so that I could glue it on, and this would actually be part of the card front, okay? So let's just do a little trimming on here first. And remember, I know I have a little space because this was 5 1/4 by 4. And I know I want some extra space across the top because when I do fold this flat to put it in the envelope, I want to see the background design, okay? So my goal is to actually make this smaller, all right? So this first cut on the top, I want to get rid of the white lines, and I'm going to go as close to the antlers as I can, but I don't want to cut the antlers off. So we've got that one. Now I'm going to go as close to this hoof as I can because I'm going to fussy cut right to the hoof there. So, you know, like I said, I look at this a little bit and kind of figure out how I'm going to do it. I might check measurements if you were doing a different design. But that's part of the fun. Okay, now I'm going to go right to the base of the hoof, and I don't want to cut that hoof off. Remember, I want to see the whole reindeer. Excuse me. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same over here, making sure I don't cut the little guy's tail. There, so now I've got the larger chunks taken off, and now I'm going to go about my fussy cutting. But when I was doing this, knowing that this is going to be, you know, on my card this way, I'm going to cut in and around the word a little bit, go straight up, because I don't want this to look all funny around it on the bottom. I'm going to try to leave the bottom whole and then do my variation of fussy cutting around the top, because that's where I think it'll be the prettiest. Now, and you might want to do it differently, which is absolutely fine. So I am going to do, you know, a little cut in. I just want to make this a little interesting on the bottom. So I'm going to cut just a little bit here, and then I'm going to go around that S. And as I do that, I'm going to go straight. Well, I tried to be straight. It's not straight. Let's see if I can straighten that out a little bit. Up here to the hoof. And then I'm going to start my variation of my cutting around the hoof there. And then the fussy cutting I'm doing now is to have the image stand out. So I'm going to do, you know, a little bit of red around the whole thing, but get closer and do the actual shape of the images in the reindeer. Going around those antlers, I just decided it's very hard to get very far in there, but I do want to do it just a little bit so they know it's antlers and not like a chunk of red, you know, from a distance. So I am doing a little bit of the detail cutting there. And since I'm going down to this other deer, I'm going to keep going around the head of this reindeer. Keep it more interesting, right? Let me cut this chunk out of here. It'll make it a little easier as I try to turn my corner here. Do the front. And then I find that here's kind of a spot where I can go straight across to the next reindeer. So that's where I'm going to do that, kind of where it naturally let me go across. Sometimes I just try to get some of the bulk out of here. And go back to the little ears here. So I tell you, it's my first project today. Looking at little reindeer, making me happy. I'm feeling like I need to get decorating for Christmas. I know it's only the beginning of November, but I'm trying to get all my decorations up one time so that if I don't have a place to use them, I want to donate them while they can still be used this Christmas for somebody else. I'm trying to do my decorations early this year. I've tried to do it for a number of years and I never seem to get there, so we'll see if this year works differently. Now I'm just going around the word Mary, kind of making that part of this unique area that's sticking up. That's a little too pointy right there. There we go. All right, and now I'm going to go down, try to go straight again, and then go around this deer. All right, and I'm going to end at the front of this hoof. All right, so let me just get all my garbage out of the way here. And let's look at this by lining it up onto those stripes. And I want to keep the tail of the deer in here. So I do need to move the front of this reindeer right here, but then this all stays within here. And doesn't that look like a nice background? Okay, so now I am just going to put glue actually on the front here so that I know I don't get any glue on the top because I don't want it to be glued there. So let's just okay. And then I kind of know where I'm marking it with that hoof right in the corner. Okay, a little glue there. Okay. Just press that in place a second. Double check I don't have any glue in the back. So that's good. And there we've got the card that stands up. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to put the basic white. Now you could put any color in here you want, but if you want to write in here, this will probably work best. So I'm just going to glue this inside. And this is the regular size of a card insert, so it's just 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And I'm just going to center it. All right, and then the thing when you're making this fun fold is you always have to have some image right here that you pop up with dimensionals so that it holds this. Now, this actually will kind of sit like this too, but that's how you make sure. So you put something here and then you leave room to write up here, and someone could write inside the card up here too if they wanted to. But anyway, I thought this would be a good use for the 3x4" card. And then as I looked at it, I thought, you know, this actually, with trying to put this on here, I have 2 images here, so I wanted to use this up inside the card, and then this is going to be the thing that we'll see, but I have to do some trimming to make it work. So let me just get out my trimmer, and once again, just kind of go to town. And the first thing is on this, I don't want to see these little, I gotta move this over more for you. I don't want to see the little antlers up in this white. And so I have to be really careful to take out the antlers from that side so that I have it for the design inside, but I don't want to cut the bottom of the S off. So I line it up so that I can use my trimmer, the track right there, to, sorry about that. All right, so we're gonna go, let's see. I think we're right there. All right, so we're gonna trim around that. And there's just a teeny tiny little brown speck there, but that's fine. And then I'm going to, since I'm right below the white there, I'm gonna go here right above the white to make it look equidistant for putting in the card. So I'm using my track again to line it up. And I just want the white to be right there at the top. So there we have the piece for inside the card. And now let's go ahead and just fussy cut this little deer out. Now you could just make it square if you wanted to, but I don't like that white up here. So yeah, I'm gonna just quickly cut around it. And when we're fussy cutting, what's the tip? That you move the hand holding the paper and your scissors hand kind of stays in place. That helps you to create a smoother line of cutting. Now, if you like these card memories and more, know you can also cut these little images out and just pop them up in your scrapbook. You know, on the edge of a picture. To make them come to life a little bit. That's what I love about fussy cutting. It really is something that I do to put a little Z into my card design. It's a little bit of my zany, my wow. All right, so there we've got our deer. And now we can finish our card. And actually, I don't need an additional sentiment because this is my sentiment. Plus I have Merry Christmas on the front of the card too. So let's get some dimensionals to pop this up on the base of the card. And the other thing is, when I was designing this, one of the things to keep in mind is I like this in landscape, not portrait as much. So I made sure that I had a landscape design. And when I looked at the cards, I made sure the design went this way. Okay, so let's take our paper coverings off of here. Okay. And I'm going to kind of look at where I want this placed. I want to see just a little of the white down here. Kind of center it, press it down, and there we go for that. And now, you know, when you're making cards, this could be a little thing of flowers. It could be your sentiment in an oval or something, or a rectangle like you see here, that you use to hold the card up. A lot of times it'll be my sentiment. Okay, and then I'm just going to open the card up, and I'm going to put this little deer right up here. And then I would just write behind it. So there is our finished card. And for the envelope then, with the stickers, they had that same deer. And I thought, well, that's perfect. I'm just going to put that on the outside of the envelope, and it's kind of like a preview to what's going to be in the card. And then the last thing is, always got to have some bling, right? Now, I'm not going to put the bling on the envelope, but I am going to put the bling on the inside of my card. And what I really liked is they all have collars on, so I thought that would be the perfect thing to decorate with the bling. Now, these are red rhinestones that we had in the catalog a year or two back, and they are perfect. So I'm going to put one in the center of that collar, and I'm going to put one on the berries by the holly on that collar. This one has a little flower, and I'll put that in the center. And then I am going to put one inside. These are small enough that it won't matter with the postage. There we go. There, now it's done. So that's another way to add a little Z, wow, or pop onto your card with adding the, you know, the little embellishments. So, any questions, comments on that before I put this one away and we start on our next card? I'm just going to set this off to the side. Okay. I'm just giving you a second, plus I'm going to take a quick drink of water here. While if you have a question, you have a little time to type. So obviously that fun fold can be for any occasion. I find that to be a real easy fun fold. I don't know if I'll need the trimmer. Let's get that out of the way here. All right. Well, we're ready to move on to card 2. And this one is using the sophisticated sled plus some of the other things, other stamp sets that we have. So I'll show you those in just a moment. And this one I did not focus on anything on the inside outside of you be able to put a sentiment in here, and I would put the white in here because it'll set off whatever you do, and I would use real red ink. If you don't have it, black is fine. But anyway, we're going to focus on what we do with this card for the front, and I'm going to turn my tutorial over here so I have the measurements again. Thanks, Betty. I'm glad you like that stand-up card. I do too. And like I said, it's so easy and easy for people to display. All right, so let's look at what I used for the tools or the resources first. And so this is one of the new sized embossing folders they're putting out. This you can emboss a whole card base, or you can make 2 card fronts at the same time, or just use, you know, a half a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock and then cut it up into littler squares, to use. This is so nice. It's one time through your cut and emboss machine, and you've got a lot of wonderfully embossed cardstock. And that's what I used on this card base. Can you see the plaid design? And then I picked up the plaid by using that designer series paper from the Reindeer DSP. But, obviously that has the white and green in it. So I thought that kind of went together, though. All right, and then we have the sophisticated sled. And I did this in an earlier card of my card making lesson, and I just used the wreath and not even the sled. But you can put the wreath, or you can put this thing of flowers on your sled. The skates are gorgeous on here, I think, and I really did the detail, which I wanted to share with you today. And then I used the sentiment from this as well. Now, this you can buy the stamp set separate from, and you could fussy cut these things if you didn't have the dies. But these dies make it really easy. And so the wood part comes in 2 pieces. The sled, if you stamp it, there's an outline to cut it out. Otherwise, there's pieces to make the sled with the metal bottom and then the wood pieces. The skate blades come separate, which is how I made my silver, blades. The laces come separate, so you can make them a color. If you just stamp the skates, you can cut that out. And then the cardinal, I'll show you this in a minute, but it was really easy because I stamped black on red cardstock and used the die, and the cardinal was perfectly cut out, and I didn't have to color it because I did the black on red. So I'll show you that. And then this set of dies is with a sentiment set that is in the online exclusives. Greetings of the Season dies. These are perfect, you guys. I can't tell you how many of these I've already used, and I'm going to be using them as I continue to make gift tags through the next couple weeks. These are such a variety of sizes. You can use them on so many things, and it was perfect for trying to help me make the sled pop off the front of this card and not get lost in all of the detail because I used just a flat garden green color. All right, so those are my tools. And let's see, I'm just going to set them aside and bring out the parts and pieces to our card. And I have done some of the die cutting, or most of the die cutting, if not all of it, early, just because I wanted to save time, with the die cutting. But let's go ahead and look at the pieces. Okay, I'm going to keep that over here. So the base, very basic. Once again, just a half a piece, 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I have it scored at 4 1/4, and I'm just going to take my bone folder and go ahead and make sure our card front is ready. Now, I really wanted this to be a little bit more elaborate, so I'm creating layers on here. If you didn't want to do that, you could leave this plain, or you could put this through the die cutting machine. With just the front. And then it would be only the front that gets the design, okay? Or as I said, see how these fit the whole thing? You could have the whole thing be plaid if you wanted to be. All right. But I decided that I wanted layers. So my card design in this card is layers to make things much more interesting. And I really wanted the sled, the skates, all of this to be very 3D. So that's why I am doing layering. So then, because of the size of all this, though, I needed a pretty substantial card front. So I used the usual size of 4 by 5 1/4. But then I just did 1/8 of an inch added on to the size. So this is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 to put a little white border. And I wanted that to help make the skates pop. So that's why I did it in white. And I still wanted the red behind it, but I need this to be pretty big because of the design I'm doing, all right? So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to attach this and the card insert. Let me just grab another piece of white here. Right. And first, this one's just going to be my card insert. So I'm going to go ahead so I don't forget. And I'm going to put that in here. Okay. And let me get this glued in here. Oh wait, I think I have to keep this one, never mind. Yep. Okay, here's a little tip. So you know how at Joann's or Michael's or whatever, you can buy, I can't remember the name of the cardstock, but it's less expensive cardstock. Now, when I am stamping, I always want to use Stampin' Up! Cardstock. It is made to accept ink. If you ever take the cheaper cardstock and then Stampin' Up! And you stamp on them, you can tell the difference. But when I'm just putting layers in something, and I'm not going to stamp on it, then I use the cheaper cardstock because I'm not going to stamp on it. So just a way to save money. The other thing is, if all you have is Stampin' Up! Cardstock, then I would cut a smaller square out of here to use on another card front. You know, I would use a big die. And then I have that in my stash for another reason, okay? But before I can glue this together, now I do need to run this through my cut and emboss machine. So I'm going to go ahead. And because this is plaid and there are lines, I am going to pay attention to actually putting my cardstock in here straight. And all embossing folders have this little black line. And with this being plaid, it's easy to follow the plaid lines too. But use those to help you make sure that it's straight, because you don't want crooked plaid on your card. I think it would show. So I'm kind of even lining up where the plaid goes off on the end so that that looks all right. All right, there. And then, oops, I'm holding this on the back. All right, I'm just going to run this through the cut and emboss machine, and I'll be right back. All right. And there we go. So now you have either, there's two sides and they look just a little differently, and you can decide, do you want the larger, deeper cuts to be in or out? Now on this one, I put them in. This one, I'll do them out and we'll see if it makes a big difference. But what I do now is I'm just going to glue this to the front. And because it's an embossed image, I like to use my glue because it goes in the lines and really does a great job of securing my embossed card front to the front of the card. So once again, I'm just going to center that, and because this is such a thin little border, you know, I try not to press it down right away so I can slide it a little. The beauty of using multi-purpose glue. And then I just go around and press all the edges, and in the center, making sure it's secured. And now for interest, when I'm done making this card front, I'm going to pop it up with dimensionals. So to remind myself, I'll put the dimensionals by it, and I'm just going to set this off to the side for now. And we're going to work on actually doing the other parts and pieces of the card. So let me just lay these out, and you know what? I'm trying to think, maybe if I just put my pierce mat here, it'll be easier, and maybe my silicone mat so that you can see the pieces a little bit better. So the first thing I did was I took Garden Green as an accent color to the Designer Series paper. So I got this plaid out of the Reindeer Designer Series paper, and then the green. And like I said, I wanted a solid so my sled would show. All right, so we've got those pieces there here. And then I cut out the metal sled. Now that's out of Early Espresso. And then Pecan Pie is what I used for the wood sled. I think Crumb Cake would have worked too, but I really liked, this feels like such a nice warm brown color. And then that's going to get put on here. And then it's got this yoke for on the top. And sometimes to put these together, I have to tell you, I have to look in a catalog, you know, to make sure. Now, how far was that wood on that sled, you know? And then that goes together. Then I cut out my white skates. Okay. And now you're going to see these in my Xyron. I think you've probably seen me use this before. It's Create a Sticker, and if you have something really small and you need adhesive on it and you don't want to use glue, so I can use little glue dots, but I thought it'd get kind of messy. So you just slide your cutouts, your die cuts in here, and it comes out on a piece of tape like this. So this is the same if I had thought to use an adhesive sheet, a little corner behind my red cardstock and cut it out, or on the silver foil, I can use adhesive sheets, and you can get those from Stampin' Up. But because I forgot, I had to have another way to do that. So I thought I would take the opportunity to show you how I do this. So once I pull out the tape here, I just take a stylus, and there's, you know, a larger balled end. Let's see. Is that going, nope, this way? So you can see it, a larger end and a smaller end. I like to use the larger one because it doesn't like poke into the paper as much. And you just go around the outside of the cardstock that's been die cut. And I go in these little loops, and if this is a word, I go in between the spaces and the letters. And what this does is it keeps the adhesive on the cardstock, but where there's extra adhesives in those little holes and around this, it actually is a way kind of like you're cutting off the adhesive by just, you know, tacking it down to the sticker side of this tape you have. So it just makes for a little bit cleaner image. If the glue does come with it, you can always ball it up, you know, by rubbing on it, and it'll come off of your card. And this just takes a minute, but it's worth it when you're actually gluing something down, because then it's usually just done. All right, so we've got that. Then what you do is you pull the sticky part off. And then that leaves you with your images ready to pick up off of here and put onto your design, okay? So let's go ahead and glue together our sled and glue together the skates. And I need to take a drink of water. I know you guys probably know I was sick last week, so my throat's getting dry. There, I haven't talked this much for a while. Okay, so I am just going to use dots of the multi-purpose glue. You could use mini glue dots, and or you could use your leftover paper pumpkin glue dots too. And I'm just putting a dot where there is, you know, this frame here. And then I'll center the yoke of the sled, using those as my landmarks. And remember, the glue will dry clear. So I'm just gonna push that down. And then I'm gonna use the same markings for putting this big piece of wood on here. Just kind of do the, you know, the sides and the center. So you don't always have to smear the glue all over it. You know, you can, if you're one of those people that likes to use a sponge to put glue on the back of an image, you know, you can. I just sometimes like using this dot method. You know, it seems a little less messy sometimes. Okay, and then I'm just going to use kind of that bottom sled as my guide. To getting this in place. And I did get a little glue on my fingers, so I'm just going to hold this in place a moment so I'm sure that it's, you know, glued down, because when I put the skates on it, I don't want, you know, it pulling apart. All right, so that is our sled glued together. Now we'll go ahead and do the skates. And I'm just going to try to rub this glue off my fingers. All right, so with the skates, the blades are a different color, and then these are the laces. And I decided to do the skate laces so they would match the background, and also available with one of the, I think it's with the Reindeer Days Suite, is this red and white baker's twine. So I decided that that would be a great way to have, you know, them hang off of the sled, and it all matches. All right, so the adhesive is already on these. I am going to take my very festive tweezers, and set this in place. So I'm going to take off the blade and whoops, set it in place. Okay, so there's one. And then I'll just pick up the second one. And set that in place. And I think you can tell what a difference. If you don't have silver foil paper, I would see if you have a silver shiny marker, you know, to color in that part of these skates. You know, it really is worth trying to make them get set off because it makes such a difference in how these skates appear. And then now for the laces. Now there's a spot I use this line that they put in the die cut to help me line up these laces. Okay, so we've got one skate. And there we go, is the second one. All right, so now that is done. All right, and then I want to attach the skates to the sled. And I'm going to do that with mini glue dots. Let me think here. Well, the bottom, or did I use dimensionals? I did use dimensionals. I used mini dimensionals. Because remember, I'm going to pop this up. No, wait, I didn't. I used mini glue dots because I used the dimensionals to put the sled up on the tag. Okay, so let's find the mini glue dots. So you get those in a roll. Or like I said, you can use the leftover, you know, if you have these from Paper Pumpkin, if you're a Paper Pumpkin subscriber, these work great too. I always have leftovers from there. All right, and let me get my take your pick tool here. And I'm just going to put this behind the skate. And I'll do that on this one. Oh boy, I got that wrapped right around here. Not a good. Have to do that again. Kind of wrapped up on the front of the take your pick tool. And it did it again. That's why I like using the mini ones from the Paper Pumpkin. All right, but there we go. And then I'm just going to kind of make these at two different heights. Oh, and you know what? Before I do the next one, I did put the string behind here. So I am going to, you know what? This will still come off. Maybe. Yeah. I'm going to put the, anchor the baker's twine to this with a mini glue dot too. So let me get that one right here so I can put the baker's twine in it. And since I pulled that off, let me add another one of these right there. Okay, and let me put the baker's twine on this one. Okay. So how I did this is kind of decided how long I wanted these to go by putting them in half, and, you know, top of the sled down to here. And I want to be able to make a bow with this double. So let's see, that's kind of like 1 length, 2 lengths. And then I want to make the bow. So I guess this is kind of, I think I'm going to end up trimming this a little bit, but I'd rather have more than not enough. So I've got this double piece of thread. So I'm going to tie the bow in the center. You know what, I went too far one way. Okay, and then I just want to make the loops a little bit smaller. Oops, now that one got too small. All right, and then I can measure where I need to line these up with the skates and actually give this a trim. So know that the lower one is, you know, a little longer here. All right. So I'm going to set that, kind of line it up. And if you get glue on your fingers, it is harder. Okay. Probably better if I just use my tweezers. Okay. And I don't want this to come out of underneath. You know, and I'm going to secure my bow right now too. Let's do that so I don't keep moving it around. Because I'm taking my distance that I need for the little bow there based on where the skates are going to be on the sled. And I'm just going to put this right on the nose of the sled. And that's right where I'm going to put the center of the knot of the bow. There we go. All right, and now I want to make sure that I can put this on here and not see the bottom of that. Yeah, I guess I can. Okay, so we've got our one skate on there. And now let's line up the second one. All right, this one is not cooperating. There, that's better. Okay, so little picking around with that, but I think it is so worth it. Let's see. Aren't they adorable? Now you could hang those skates on anything, you know, on your card. Okay, so let's put the final pieces together. Now I'm just going to, this is where I'm going to use mini glue dots and pop this up right on top of this tag. And so, and I'm using mini glue dots so I can kind of hide them between things. You know, I'm using the whole center of this. And then kind of, you know, a couple things on the side here. There, and I think that should hold it in place. Maybe I better do one under the very top. Okay. And now this one, I'm going to use my take your pick tool to get these off. All right. So I'm just really centering that on this tag. And then to finish the front of the card, let me move this out of the way. We'll go back to the front of our card here. Okay, I want to put this to help set this off. And so I'm just kind of making these a little, what do they call that, cattywampus. And up towards the top because I have to be able to get my sentiment on the bottom. So I'm just using glue again to glue these down. You know, kind of leaving a little bit of the red poking out. And then I'm going to put glue on the back of this one. Now this green tag could just be a gift tag, just the way it is. So you've kind of learned how to make a gift tag too. All right, so we've got that. And then the choice when I already stamped this, we'll just go ahead and put this on here. But when I did that, it kind of felt like it was floating out there. I didn't, you know, really like it. So I just took a little 1/4-inch piece of the green cardstock to match this tag and put it across that 4-inch. And look at how much more anchored it looks when you just put that across your card front. So that's another tip when you're trying to connect your design and something that looks like it's floating out there. The sled didn't look right on this background without putting something behind it either. So just sometimes, and these scraps, I always have this little thing of all my scraps like this, and I'll tell you, I can work them into a lot of designs, and it does make a difference. So just gonna let that get glued down, and then I'm just going to use 2 dimensionals to hold this in place. Okay. And then I didn't like this little hole with nothing in it, so I decided I'm going to put a little baker's twine through there. I can't remember if it's better to go down and then up. We'll see here as I put it in here, I'll know. And then, you know, you just, once you put it through the hole, you bring the tail through the loop, and then I'm just going to trim it. There, that kind of made that look like it belonged. So that is everything with card 2. So, any questions, comments? Do you think this is a card that you would make? Please let me know what you think. I don't know that this would be the one I would task, but I really like that I made some of these. Now, I don't know if you can see the difference of the way I put the embossed card front. The one is down, the other one is up, so they're just a little different. Yeah, that's too close, huh? There you can probably see. Debossed and embossed. All right. So like I said, now I'm going to get ready for card 3. So if you have any questions, please go ahead. Oh, you know what I have to do? I didn't put it on my card base. See, that's why I leave the dimensionals here. And I'm going to make the whole card front stand up. I would have been confused later why my card didn't open. Oh my goodness. My husband would call that the Lucy factor. He tells me sometimes I act like Lucille Ball, and he can't help himself but to laugh because he doesn't know how I can do certain things or forget certain things. Well, that was my Lucy moment, ladies, and you saw it. I love Lucille Ball. We used to watch her all the time when I was a kid. Now I'm trying not to put this down very firmly so that I can try to center it because it's such a little line to do that. Sometimes I go from this way so I can see 3 of the sides. And that usually helps me to do it a little bit better. There we go. Okay. There. Now we're truly done. All right, and I'm going to get ready for card 3 here. I'm going to get a drink of water. If you want one, go ahead. It'll be just a minute before we do the next one. I know we were going to lose some of you in light of things you had, so I know you're going to be coming back for the recording. For those of you that are here, though, any other questions? I need to mount my stamps here before we get started. Got a couple of them. We're going to be doing Christmas trees now. And the reason that these are not on blocks already, I'll tell you, is because the cling on our cling stamps is very, very sticky. And when I stamp with them, I put them on when I'm going to start to stamp, and I take them off when I'm done, because you can get it very stuck. And I actually had, it's only happened to me once, but I actually ripped the foam because it was so stuck. So you have to just be patient and keep peeling up to get it off. But I do not leave these for a long time on my blocks because of that reason. So just something to know. All right, we've got those all on. And I'm going to need this one on. The other thing, just another tip, if you have your photopolymer stamps and they feel kind of dry and like kind of dusty even, if you use your Simply Chamois to get them wet, it helps them to adhere to your block better, you know, because it'll wipe that dirt or the dusty feeling off of it. Okay. So we've got those lined up, and let's go ahead. Are you ready for card 3? All right, so here we go. This is our third card today, and when I was thinking about this one, this is, I'll show you the supplies because I wanted to do something with evergreen trees. I had the stamp set Peaceful Evergreens that I hadn't used yet. And I thought that this would be something I could do in greens and reds. So once again, I wanted to reduce how many colors you needed when you were making these cards. So let me show you what I chose to use. And on this one, this is a retired folder. There is a, I can't, if it's called the Pines or something, that is in the catalog, and it has 3 trees. This one is actually a whole forest of trees. Okay, so you could use the 3-tree one, or if you have this retired one, you can use that for a tree background. And when you use that, let me show it to you. It comes out like, you know, this, it's all raised. It's really, really very pretty. So, you know, you could leave this a background and just have a garden green background. Now, I saw something in the Peaceful Evergreens die cutting that had something that would make it look like snow. So I wanted to show that to you because I thought that was so unique. So I didn't want to leave this with the green top. I fussy cut out the top of this tree line so that then it could look like this. And I used that as a whole middle layer. But I'm going to show you, if you don't have an embossing folder with trees like this, and you want to do this differently, I'm going to show you how you do it with just the trees that are in the Peaceful Evergreen set in our die cut. Okay, so this is one option. This is how that card looks with the middle layer. And I went from 4 inches to 4 inches. I cut this down a bit underneath the snowbank, and I made sure I could see the sky. But that was a middle layer, okay? And as I did these layers, sometimes I glued things direct, and sometimes I used dimensionals. And those are things that you'll be able to decide as you would make a card like this. All right, let's take that to the side and look at the other things that are being used. So this is the Peaceful Evergreens, and this does come as a stamp set. And then there are all these dies. So you can get this in a bundle with the stamp set and the dies. So the trees can be stamped and then cut out with the outline designs. Or there are 3 trees that you can just die cut from the paper that you don't have to stamp. And then this is the unique die that I wanted to show you. It makes, if you put this on white, it look like snowflakes. And it was a way to get snow on the card where I didn't have to. Usually I stamp snow or I stamp snowflakes. So this is a little different look. Or if you wanted polka dots, you could use this. Even if you're not doing anything with trees, you can use this and decide what color you're going to make the solid, like the balmy blue that I did here, or what paper you're going to put beneath it. Because I put a white background on this so it looked like snow. Okay, so that's the bundle I'm using for the trees and the snow. And then Greetings of the Season is another one of the sentiments that is in online exclusives. And wow, look at all of these greetings. And that's the one that has all of those tags that I showed you with the last card. And I just wanted to point out, I love these 2 sentiments in this set. May your holiday season be filled with warmth and cheerful celebration. And it's the most wonderful time of year. And I love the mix of these fonts. So this is really a unique greeting set, and you can use it for Christmas, New Year's, holidays. They're really nice. So FYI, and I'm going to use that for this card. All right. I'm going to need my one thing back here. Okay. So let's look at the parts and pieces. And I did some of the die cutting, but I'm going to do a little more stamping and die cutting. Got any more in there? Nope. Okay. Now this one, because I'm making such a heavy layered card, you can use regular cardstock, but I just felt a little more comfortable using the thick basic white because I wanted this to all stay kind of uniform and I didn't want any flimsy corners. So this is the card base. Kind of put these over here, and I just need to score this. Oh, wrong side. Let's go this way. I always use this upside down, but it's always the side closest to me, but then you can't see it. All right, so let's do this at 4 1/4. And we'll score this. Oops, I got to get my blade out of the way. Okay. And then my bone folder here, obviously, to make a nice crease. Okay, so we have our card base, which will be white, which is going to help our design pop. I'm also just going to turn my tutorial here so I can have measurements in front of me. Sometimes I remember them, but sometimes I don't. All right. All right, and then we need white for our card base. Let's see here. for our snowbanks. And what I did is I decided this would just be 4 by 5 1/4, like a normal card front. And then we'll be using that for the snowbank. And I just have some other cardstock here for stamping some trees, and I already have stamped some of them. We'll see if we need more. I just kind of did a variety, and then I have one I can fussy cut here, and I'll show you why I'm doing that. So I kind of just did a variety, and sometimes when I have a stamp set like this, this is one of those you can do while you're watching TV, is just stamp a whole bunch of trees and die cut them. It's not like something you've got to worry about, but, you know, paying a lot of attention, but you can go ahead and do this. And so I do that, and then I just put them in the stamp case and keep them with my set. Here's the cardinal I was telling you about that I just went ahead and stamped with Memento Tuxedo Black, and then used the die to cut it out. And I didn't have to color it, so using the Real Red cardstock. You could use Poppy Parade too, and that would make a really pretty cardinal. But since I was using Real Red with everything else, I wanted it to match. So I did that. Okay, and then here is that die that I showed you in Balmy Blue. This is a 4 by 4 piece of cardstock because it's not going to be the whole card front. And basically you could tell these are a little less than 2 inches is the size of that die. And then I had to snug them right up next to each other and put it through the cut and emboss machine again. And the reason I did this off camera is because to use this die twice, you have to take your pick tool and punch out all these little pieces of paper that got stuck in the die, and I didn't want you to wait while I did that. So anyway, and it also gives us a little jump start on our card. And then I have my label already punched out using the die set from the Greetings of the Season. So we'll be doing that too. All right, so we're kind of all set up here. So I'm going to first start the top of my card. And why I did this 4 inches by 4 inches is because I wanted to start doing literally a card front right on the top of this. And it's going to be my flat layer on top of this card base. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to bring my silicone mat in here just to hopefully not have glue go through anywhere. And I am going to go ahead, and I am doing that dot method on here again. I always try to do something kind of towards the corner to keep the corners down. And then I'm just going to go in between dots and put dots to hold this in place. And remember, if something comes through a dot, it will dry clear, so no worries. I am doing more than just a few dots because things are going to be glued onto the front of this. All right, so let me get that out of the way. We'll go ahead and we'll put this down as the first layer of our card front. And so I'm just going to, center that from the 3 different directions to keep the border straight and started for my card. Okay, so just hold that down for a minute. Okay, then we're going to create the snowbanks. So I am going to just take, now this is 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm just going to rip, and I'm going to rip it towards me, and I'm going to make it with some bumps in it, okay? And then when you turn it over, you have 2 layers of snow, and you can decide where you want them to start. And I like putting the torn side towards me so that you can see it looks actually like fluffy snow when you do it that way, okay? Now to kind of make my determination, I'm going to have this, what is going to be the most front-facing snowbank, that is literally going to go at the end, you know, is going to be lined up to look like it's the border, okay? So it'll be lined up and make the white border all the same way around. But this one that we put under it, we have to decide how much we're going to cut off to make it straight across with this smaller layer, but have enough room to do our trees on top. So right now I'm not going to glue anything down, but this is where if I didn't have stamped and die cut trees, that I would go ahead and do that, because now I want to kind of get an idea of where I want this and how tall I want this bank to be. All right. And right now I think it's way too tall. So let me just move it down already a little bit. And let's try this. So I just set that in place. All right. And the biggest tree is the one I want in front. So I'm going to put the biggest tree over here. And then I've got a skinny large tree. These are kind of little fat trees. And I've got a little forest of trees. And I even have ones that I kind of double stamped and then cut out. So let's see. I think I like this tall, skinny tree to kind of be in this background so that it almost goes to the top. Now I have these smaller trees that can get tucked into snowbanks. So, and I'll be using dimensionals in between the snowbank layers so that these pop up. Maybe I want another regular tree. Let's see. I can either keep them all over here and then have, you know, do I want it to look like there's, you know, a layer of small trees behind this on that bump? Or do I want this little forest kind of right back here? Oh, I like that, I think, with it back there. Now, the other thing is, I did some double stamping on here, and the only thing I want to check is whether or not I liked that even looking like that's 2 layers deep versus just this, you know, single layer. And you know what, in this case, it doesn't work because of where that tree goes. So I'm just going to use the single layer right there. So now the only other thing I have to see if it'll work is where I'm going to put my greeting, and it'll fit on the snowbank. I think that works great. So now I am going to start putting these where I think the layers are going to go, and then I have to do some trimming. So let's see. I think I'm just going to lay these to the side kind of the way I put them. We'll leave these kind of sit where they were. And I'm just going to straighten this out and literally cut straight across there. Now you can use your trimmer. Maybe that's what I'll do, is I'll just use my trimmer here. kind of see where the measurement is. Okay, just trim that off. And then I'll be able to attach that to my card. All right, so the as you look through the layers, I am going to glue the bottom of the biggest layer right down flat. And then the whole second layer of snow is going to be on dimensionals. And then once I start doing the trees up here, the ones in the back are going to be flat. And then I'm going to use dimensionals and some flat like on this other bank, but you'll see me do that in a row. So let's first start with the bottom white layer. And remember, I'm just going to glue this on the bottom. And I'm not gluing all the way up because I want to be able to punch things down inside here, right? And glue it down. So let's just get that centered, and I just want to make sure it is in line with the blue. Okay. And then this one is going to go right on top, but with all dimensionals. And I'm going to use big dimensionals along the bottom right now. I'm always going to be able to add small dimensionals to anchor it better. But right now I want to be able to put the trees in there. And if you put the dimensionals up here, you can't put the trees in. So they'll end up, well, you can, you'll have to cut off the tree images. Okay, so I'm going to line this up. And now it'll start being dimensional, but I'm going to line it up with the other snowbank. But it's popped up. Okay. And then I'm going to start gluing down from the back. So I'm going to do this tree first. That's the tall, skinny one. And now I'm going to put my little forest across here. Now, if you wanted to, the first time you stamped these, you could have stamped them all off so they all do look like they're more faded in the distance. Okay. Now let's see, let's get I know this one is going to get popped up. We're going to pop up the top of that one. Let's see, do I want that up a little? All right, so this one I'm going to glue flat to the snowbank, but I'm going to put a dimensional behind it so the top pops up. So sometimes when you're doing things that you want more anchored and then, you know, you want to benefit from dimension. Let's see, how high can I put that right there? Okay. And then I'm just going to take a small dimensional to that one, take the paper adhesive off both sides. When it's in your finger, it doesn't want to do that so well. All else fails, use your tweezer or the take your pick tool. All right. And then I'm just going to put this behind the top of the tree. There, now that stands up. All right, and this whole tree I'm going to pop up. Let's see, I can use a couple bigger dimensionals down here on the bottom. And just put a little one on top. So these are the same depth, the dimensionals, they're just different in sizes, so you can use them on the same thing and it won't look funny. And all right, and so then before we do this, do we want to have another tree anywhere? Nope, that'll defeat that purpose. Let's see, I'm putting this here. Yeah, you know, I guess I kind of do like this one right here. So I'm going to do what I did with this one. I'm just going to glue down the bottom. And then I'm going to use a small dimensional to make that one pop up on the top. Okay. All right, so we've got that. I need to decide. I loved the pop of red in here, so I think, you know, if we still make our cardinal, we can put it there, or we can put it over here. Maybe this time we'll put it on this side. And I am going to glue that directly on the tree, though, because I don't want it to fall off or get knocked off. And then let me get out my real red here. And my Pierce mat, and here we go with Season's Greetings. Oh, sorry about that. You can't see that getting stamped. Sorry, it was off to the side there. Okay. And I am going to glue this on one side and put dimensional on the other because they're at two different heights. So let me just get one dimensional over here, and we'll put a little glue over here. So kind of when you're putting your layers on, just kind of be mindful of what's going where. Okay. There we go. And then the final thing, I didn't like that hole there, so I decided to get some rhinestones. And I'm just going to put one big rhinestone that will go right over that to just set that off a little bit. And there we go. So, you know, maybe you like one look better than the other, with them, you know, one just being the trees and one having that middle layer, you know, of the garden green, using the embossing folder, right? So those are your choices, or based on the stuff that you have, you know, you can make it look two different ways. And I think they both look fine. You know, just a little different. All right, so I hope that you have gotten some ideas, tips, techniques, and maybe you'll jot down to yourself things that you can use, whether it be, in this case, embossing folders to make your backgrounds, die cutting, doing some inking and die cut things out for details on this one, having labels with sentiments from maybe other sets. Okay. And, using the, well, these are going to slide right down. Using different distances as you layer your cards, whether you just do things with glue or you do things with dimensionals. And, sometimes I end up doing a double dimensional, but then I also think whether or not I'm putting that in the mail. And then on this one, do you have die cuts? Do you have memory and more? Do you have designer series paper? You could do that to cut that out as well for this card. The question would be whether if it's designer series paper, does it stand up well enough, or do you need to mount it on cardstock to be able to get the, it to stay up and not be flimsy, right? And using stickers that are part of these kits for envelopes. Like I said, this fun fold over and over can be used. Little kids would like it too if they could put it on their dresser, bookshelf. And then, this one, really stepping things up, layers, colors, and don't forget the detail. And there's a lot of different ways to add detail, whether it's paper, specialty paper, markers, colored pencils, Stampin' Blends, different ribbon, and use your scraps. Hopefully that helps. So with that, okay, great. I'm glad you saw something different. And Betty, great. Yeah, you can do the one with those tree dies. And I always think those cards look just so spectacular. And I love that this has 3 different trees when they're stamped. There's also 3 trees that look totally different that can just be die cut out of the paper, which would make the card look even more impressive. So lots of choices, lots of fun with these. Any other questions you have? Otherwise, don't hesitate to either write in these comments. I would appreciate if you would let me know if you like this by giving me a thumbs up or a heart. Any other comments on your thoughts about the class? And if you have questions, put them here in this Facebook group, or don't hesitate to email me directly at Tracy, TRACI, at plumcrazystamping.com. Ladies, thank you so very much for joining me. It's been my pleasure to spend time with you and to hopefully share some really fun things that you can do with Christmas cards this year and other years in your future. Anyway, always wonderful. Take care and happy stamping. Bye-bye now.